Now, from tackling the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast of Nigeria to militants in the south-south to the rampaging herdsmen crisis, inter-ethnic clashes, the Nigerian military is active in more than 28 states of the country at the moment.
Yes, indeed. And Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, is now expressing worry over this development. He says the prolonged deployment of military personnel to crisis-prone areas across the country literally places the country in a state of emergency. For him, the army should not be deployed in such places as they have virtually taken over routine security operations rather than complement the efforts of the police and other civil authorities.
Now we have joining us now to discuss this issue is Colonel Hassan Stan-Lanbo, military and diplomatic expert, retired. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Colonel Hassan Stan-Lanbo, retired.
Right.
Yes. Thank
you. Security consultant.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Now let's get into this. In our society, it's not very conventional to see military soldiers on our streets and all of that. But in a situation where security challenges seem to be obviously overwhelming the police and the other security agencies, are we looking forward to seeing the military on our streets now?
Thanks so much, Mike. I guess we all know there are statutory provisions for the deployment of the military. Okay, as enshrined in Geneva Convention, Article 3, as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic, Section 217, 218, as enshrined even in the Armed Forces Act itself, Sections 3, 8, and 239. I call it the almighty 239 because it absorbs the military from any blame. Okay. I wouldn't want to start mentioning the various elements under those sections so that we can save time. Yeah. Yes, it is proper to deploy the military, but I would say that the issue is not whether we have the military deployed in huge quantum, but whether there has been an abuse. Has the idea of deploying them been abused? If it has not been abused, I think it's still within acceptable.
So what constitutes abuse?
Like, absolutely.
What constitutes the
clear example of abuse is Ekiti Gate. The Ekiti Gate scandal.
During the elections.
Where a governor and a minister were all involved in this same country. And it speaks much about the character of individuals that occupy our leadership cadre. If people so highly placed.
Including the military.
Involved. Of course. Right. But when we talk about Ekiti Gate, we are talking about a situation where political power was threatening individuals who are supposed to execute or play their role under the elections. I hope you know the military could be deployed in terms of elections too. Good. And you come threatening the individuals involved there. You know your promotion rests on my table. If you don't do this, you don't do that. So that was abuse of power emanating from the very individuals who deployed the military, meaning they deployed the military then for their own interests.
Okay, now, so the Speaker of the House of Reps, Yakubu Dogara, has raised the alarm. He's expressed a lot of worry that you have the military deployed in all 28 states of 36 states.
Yes.
And he said, in other words, I'm even wondering, are we misquoting him? Are we quoting him out of context? That it seems like Nigeria is in a permanent state of emergency. Is that what the situation is? If you look at Boko Haram, you look at the South-South, you look at the agitations here and there. Is it justified?
Good. My shock is that such an observation or cry out is coming from somebody like Dogara, the Right Honorable, whom I see as part of the strategic level. Who deploys the military? The military does not come out on its own, mind you. The only individual that can deploy the military is the President and Commander-in-Chief. And of course, we all know it emanates from a decision. The decision-making body for that is the strategic level. Who are those that make up the strategic level? The politicians, including Dogara himself. He cannot shy away from not being part of the strategic level, more so when he's even in the ruling party. So the point I'm making is this. It's not just now, way back even, you know, in fact, the present government is even very responsible about it because they are deploying to ensure that lives and property are preserved. Unlike in the past dispensation where the essence of deploying was to see how much votes you can get and so on.
The army is actually taking over the job of the police.
I have asked the question, who is deploying?
The army is acting as the civil authority, which is what the police really should be doing.
Yes.
But come to think of it, is the police really
let me come to that.
capable?
If only if you had allowed me, I would have come to that.
Go ahead.
The police has a problem on its own. And I guess that's why at all time we hasten to deploy the military. And what is the first major problem I think the police has? Manpower issues. Like we speak, the police force can be more than between 300 and 400,000 men, policing 180 million of us. Half of these 300 or 4,000 men are engaged in non-policing activities, carrying handbags for madam, carrying umbrellas for madam, protecting children to school, Oga's children to school and back, taking care of Oga's home, village home, taking care of his house in Lagos and his house in Abuja. When you put in all this for all the senior officers, then go to the politicians. If I'm not mistaken, of course, we all know governors have litter of policemen around them. Some senators would have. Minus all this, how many policemen do we have actually engaged in police duties? Except you are an irresponsible government and you continue to say the police will do its job. Where are the policemen to do the job? So at every point in time, we all see the police being overwhelmed. Because, of course, one of the provisions is that the military gets engaged when the police must have been overwhelmed. With this sort of thin size, at nearly every turn, you are overwhelmed. And
wasn't there a time when we heard from the authorities that policemen would be withdrawn from the VIPs?
Have we seen them withdrawn?
Okay, that's another question.
I still see them escorting madam, carrying madam's handbag. Have we seen them withdrawn?
That's a big question there. but if we still follow up on this deployment of military to about 28 states, would you say that there has been justification for their deployment? When you look at the nature of security
threats
across the entire country?
Let us not shy away from it, my brother. We live in a very volatile environment, whether we want to accept it or not. Fine, if talking with if the foreign press, I may want to defend it, but we are Nigerians talking to ourselves, so the truth matters. Our environment is very volatile. If you are not talking of IPOP, you are talking of MASOP, or you are talking of El Zakzaki, or Boko Haram, go on. These are even the ones we know. There are Babu and whatever, still imagine. So, my brother, let's face reality. If this is the situation, I'm also with politicians hitting up the polity at every point, creating more problems than we expect, making irresponsible statements and so on. Tell me. So at nearly every point, you draft in the policemen, they are overwhelmed, you move in troops. Look at the herdsmen issue. You know how agitative a lot of communities have been. Overlook, bring us soldiers, bring us soldiers. The government, in its course to be a bit hesitant, is been accused of playing funny. So as communities begin to cry out, bring us soldiers, you move in police. The police, of course, are overwhelmed or even rejected by the communities. The next thing you do is that the police return to you and tell you we have been overwhelmed, so that the process for bringing in the military would immediately commence. And within 48 hours, such processes are completed, and the presidency must have approved.
Okay, you know what? When we come back from the news update, we're trying to find out in this deployment exactly what is expected of this military men. Are their terms of engagement even clear at all, so that they don't go beyond their brief?
All right, let's bring you the news update for the time now. A former governor of Jigawa State, Saminu Turaki, has been arrested by operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
Turaki is being detained by the EFCC for allegedly mismanaging Jigawa State's funds during his tenure as governor. His detention might be connected to an arrest warrant after the EFCC's several attempts to bring him to court failed. Members of the business circle say micro, small and medium-scale enterprises operating in the country still face multiplicity of challenges.
Now, the United Nations Global Compact, in collaboration with the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, examined some of these challenges. The session also emphasizes that corruption reduction and adoption of good business practices by MSMEs can play a big role in moving the ailing economy out of recession.
And you've been updated back to our discussion with Colonel Hassan Stan-Lanbo, retired. Now, the question I asked before I went on that short news update.
Yeah.
This deployment, what should we really expect this military men to be doing all across the country if we say that we are in a peacetime and not necessarily at war?
Every deployment has its task well spelled out to the military body that is being deployed. Okay? And depending on the situation in which the deployment is being necessitated, for instance, let's take elections. If you are deploying the military in the course of elections, like it is even in advanced democracies, for instance, you would require, it may have become necessary that you require platforms of, say, the air component or platforms of the maritime components. By that I mean the Air Force and the Navy, to assist in moving election materials and INEC personnel across difficult terrains and get them on the other side. So these materials could be accessed and used, and at the end maybe cross them over again. You could use the military in such. It's done in the US, it's done everywhere. Okay? You use the army, that's the land component now, in blocking the fringes on the outskirts within where the elections are holding, to ensure that things like small arms ammunitions are not moved in, to ensure that, to enforce movement orders for individuals who are not supposed to move in to come in, and things like that. These are on the fringes, not within the town itself. And that is supposed to be the role of the military, say under elections and so on. So like I said, it depends on what job, yes, you want to engage them in, you know, and things like that. You know, they could be engaged in humanitarian purpose, like we see in Boko Haram, under Boko Haram, where
in the northeast.
Yes, in the northeast, sorry. You know, where they assist in ensuring that humanitarian needs.
Okay, so now in expressing these fears, the same Dogara, the Speaker of the House of Reps, said that the National Assembly has done everything to ensure that the security operatives are well funded. From where you stand, looking at what's going on, whether it's the police or the military and all of that, would you say that they're actually, you know, well funded in such a way that they're able to carry out their responsibility? You're laughing already. I already know what that answer is.
I laugh because somebody who is expected to know better is talking like an ordinary man on the street. I left the military not too long, and I know that as far as I'm concerned, the entire defense segment of this country, Army, Air Force, Navy, is not well funded. It's not well funded. Why? As far as I'm concerned, because the politicians are greedy. The Assembly would rather allocate better funding to itself. The Assembly would rather divert fundings from East-West Road and Lagos-Ibadan Road into projects like a borehole, which we shall never see because the monies will end up in their pockets. Nigerians are too wise for all these funny things. My sister, law enforcement agencies and the military are yet to receive better funding that would enhance on motivation, morale, and capabilities.
Now, in all of this that the military has been deployed, what kind of precaution should be in place so that the military is not corrupted, the military don't abuse their terms of engagement, as the case may be?
We should try as much as possible to insulate the military away from our politics. I did not use the word isolate. Insulate the military away from our politics. It is a dangerous trend when we continue to bring in the military too close to our politics. It's very important. Thank God we have a military, a president with a military background. And he understands that, look, that is very important. And I know with his level of integrity and so on, definitely that is going to take place, because what we had in last dispensation, I don't see them cropping up again. I don't see an Ekiti gate again under this present dispensation. Never.
Yeah, we hope never to see it again
never.
In the future.
I know what I'm saying, except you want to be court-martialed to death. Never. It can never happen with the crop of leadership we have in the military today. And I know what I'm talking about. So we thank God for that. Like I've said, we've talked about the issue of motivation. We've talked about the issue of morale. We've talked about sustaining the commitment of the men. You know, these are things you do sincerely, and it takes care of whatever unforeseen.
All right, but the military themselves, is it possible with this deployment, can the military be overstretched sometimes?
Yes, if I tell you no, I would be trying to play to the gallery. Yes, the military could be overstretched. And that is why some of us remain advocates of an increased manpower in the military. I keep saying it that, look, I want a Nigerian military that can take on in, say, 3 different fronts. It can be fighting Boko Haram and at the same time attacking incidents in the South-South, addressing another incident, maybe in, I don't want to use the name, but somewhere in any part of the country.
Or even any part of Africa.
The Nigerian military right now, as it is constituted, do you think it can actually meet these challenges on all fronts?
We have the capacity to. We may lack the necessary manpower to complement that capacity. We may lack, and if you are bringing in manpower to complement that, with more power, of course, more equipment.
Is that like a well-trained doctor that doesn't have the equipment?
Thank you, my dear.
Okay.
A well-trained doctor but has no equipment. He's just there watching.
Okay, we
have equipment for now, but if we have to beef up to reach what my prescriptions of 3 fronts, we have to.
Okay, so now, still looking at the wider picture, the 2014 confab actually recommends state police as a way of checking threats of security or maintaining the peace at the micro level. So now, based on this general perception of the public towards the police, how do you ensure that you have a police, whether it's the way it is right now with the 300,000 strong police force or even the 10,000 added to it, that it can actually deliver on its promise?
Well, we just have to address some of the deficiencies of the police. Okay, what are its areas of deficits?
Yes.
The manpower issue comes in, training comes in. Okay, I keep saying that, look, if I were the police authorities, I know the training of the military is slightly different from what you have in the police. But if they peep into what the military is doing, I think there are a few things they can pick home. Just like you advise other state governors or governments to peep into Lagos State and pick what you can pick and go and implement, even though they are 2 different, you find something for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why am I saying this? We often say, look, the policeman or the average policeman exhibits some level of incapacity. Okay? It becomes clear that he needs further training and things like that. The duration of time which the police recruit spends in the police college, I guess it's about 6 months or 9 months. That is about the same duration of time the recruits in the army spends. But the difference is that when the recruit in the army comes out, there is a lot of on-the-job what's it called?
Training.
Training, ongoing. Ongoing. And once a recruit arrives the unit, the spotlight is on him. You know, these are freshmen. They need to be further groomed and so on. So every aspect of their life is scrutinized. From the way he marches on the parade ground, from the way he salutes his seniors, from the way he talks to his seniors. At every point, you are correcting him. Before that man spends 3, 4, 5 years, he has emerged with some level of perfection. Well refined, yes.
Personnel.
Do we have such a thing?
Yeah.
With the police.
All right. Colonel Hassan Stan-Lanbo, retired. Thank you very much for coming on the program this morning.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.